Welcome to episode 25 of the Perrysburg Podcast. I'm your host and Perrysburg resident, Kim Newlove. Today we're talking about WW Knight Nature Preserve, which we locals just call WW Knight. That's Knight Knight, by the way, not Night. And although this park has Nature Preserve in the title, most people just call it a park. This is a follow-up from episode 7 of the Perrysburg Podcast, which was an overview of the parks in Perrysburg. If you're new to this podcast, welcome! The Perrysburg Podcast is an informational podcast for 3 groups of listeners. We've got the prospective residents who are considering a move to Perrysburg and might be planning a visit, new Perrysburg residents who have been here less than 12 months, and current residents who have been here more than a year. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. You can find the show notes for this episode on perrysburgpodcast.com. You can also find a YouTube video of this episode on youtube.com/@Perrysburg Podcast. Heads up, there will be an audio-only version on that YouTube channel, and there will also be a video version. If you want to see the pictures and videos that I took of WW Knight in 2023, please pick the video version of this episode. You'll love it. This episode might appeal to all 3 groups of my audience. If you've lived here in town more than a year, you probably know about WW Knight, but if you've been here less than a year, you may not know about it. And there is an annual event coming up here in January of 2024 called Wild Lights that you might want to check out. If you're new to town, check it out. We'll be talking about that later in the episode. Now, for that 3rd group of listeners who might be interested in moving to Perrysburg or planning a visit, this episode might help you decide if you want to include WW Knight Nature Preserve in your plans. Let's get the general information out of the way first. Where is WW Knight? WW Knight Nature Preserve is located at 29530 White Road in Perrysburg, Ohio. It's where White Road and River Road meet. It's on the east side of town. There is plenty of parking as you enter WW Knight, but you can also safely reach the park by foot or bike if you live nearby. FYI, there is a bike rack near the Nature Center. The posted hours of operation on the information sign there at the information stand are 8 a.m. daily until 30 minutes past sunset. To learn more about WW Knight Nature Preserve, you can also visit the Wood County Parks District website, which is wcparks.org. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. Next up, I'll list 12 features of the park, and then we'll talk through them one at a time. After that, I'll talk about Wild Lights, which is the event coming up January 19th through 21st. It's only going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's January 19th through 21st, 2024. You can see pictures of most of what I'm talking about and pictures from last year's Wild Lights in the YouTube video for this episode. That again is episode 25 of the Perrysburg Podcast. Let's get started. Number 1, I already mentioned, is the Nature Center. Number 2 is the pond. Number 3 is the picnic shelters. There are 2. Number 4, an information stand in the parking lot. Number 5, there is not a playground, but there is a nature playscape. Number 6 is a pollinator garden. Number 7 is a sensory garden. Number 8 is a bee nursery. Number 9 is bat boxes. Number 10 is a brick memorial walkway. Number 11 is kayaking in the summertime. And finally, number 12 is the 4 hiking trails. Now that you have the list, let's talk about them one at a time. Item number 1 is the Nature Center. We're going to talk about this for a good minute or two. The Nature Center is big. As soon as you pull your car into the parking lot or walk into the parking lot or pull your bike into the parking lot, you will see it. It is a wheelchair-friendly building. It has a beautiful front porch with rocking chairs on it. I would guess there are at least 6. There's a small materials recycling center as you walk up to the building. And as you walk inside, there is an event space on your left. It is labeled as the Great Room. The Great Room is also called the Hankeson Room. I believe it is called the Hankeson Room because it is dedicated in memory of Jack and Virginia Hankeson. The Hankeson Room is a large and beautiful space. You can see it on the park's website. I believe the website says it holds up to 120 guests. Once upon a time, I went to a graduation party there. It was in the spring. The weather was beautiful, and we were able to go out onto the wooden deck that is attached to the room. It is very nice. Speaking of graduation parties, I tried to reserve the Hankeson room for my son's graduation party and I missed out. It books up for graduation parties early. I'm talking a year in advance. We ended up having the party at my church, which is Lutheran Church of the Master. It went fantastic, but just word to the wise, if you are planning a graduation party, please be advised call a year or more in advance. And also, if you heard episode 17 of the Perrysburg Podcast, you might know that Tim Anstead from the Perrysburg Area Chamber of Commerce told me that the chamber has luncheons in the Hankeson Room as well. So if you can imagine, there is a wide variety of events that happen in the Hankeson Room. Also inside the Nature Center is a spacious lobby with a surprisingly tall ceiling, bathrooms, information displays, a large display for local photography and other exhibits. It's a large glassed-in area, can't miss it. There's a hallway that has coat hooks and donor recognition signs. At the end of the hallway is an educational classroom, a library, a room for bird watching, known as the Luna, which stands for Look Out on Nature Area, LOONA, Luna, and there's also an elevator to the second floor. I have never been on the second floor. I always figured it was just offices up there because there's no signage inviting visitors to visit the second floor. The second item on my list is a large pond. There are 2 bridges over the pond, so the pond actually feels like 3 different ponds. There are areas of the pond where fishing is allowed for children ages 17 and under. I don't know much about that. We are not fishermen over in my family, but if you read the signs on site, you'll learn more about fishing at WW Night. And something that's kind of cool about this pond is when the pond freezes, there will be a sign to notify visitors that it's safe or not safe to skate on the pond or walk on the pond. It has not been cold enough in my memory for skating on the pond in a number of years, but you never know. Read the sign, it could happen again soon. It is January. Item number 3 is the picnic shelters. There are 2 picnic shelters at WW Night. You'll find wooden picnic tables inside each one and garbage cans. There are no lights or electricity that I know of, and these shelters appear to be available on a first-come, first-served basis. Number 4 is an information stand in the parking lot. There are 2 sides, of course. On one side, there is a map of the park with the 4 hiking trails and their distances, a legend explaining the symbols, the hours of operation, the park police phone number, and other basic information. And on the other side of the information stand is a glass case with a map of the other Wood County parks, a calendar of events, and advertisements for individual upcoming events like Wild Lights in January. Now we're on to number 5. There is not a playground at this park, but there is something called a nature playscape. Everything in the playscape is made out of wood for the most part. It is a place for kids to play, learn, and explore. Kids love running around, and this is a great little place for that. The number one thing that your kids need to see when they visit this playscape is what I call the nest. It looks like humans made a giant bird's nest out of sticks and other materials. When you're inside, you feel like you are standing inside a bird's nest. Item number 6 is the pollinator garden. On the map, the pollinator garden is located behind the Nature Center. I go to WW Night about once a month, and I do not know much about the pollinator garden. TripAdvisor, on the other hand, says that there is both a pollinator garden and a recycled bottle house at WW Night. I'll just lump both of those together and say that, yes, I have actually seen that there is a greenhouse-looking feature behind the Nature Center that appears to have walls of green and clear 2-liter pop bottles. I'm guessing that the pollinator garden is all around that recycled bottle house because flowers grow back there in the summer and the spring. And bees like flowers, right? Bees are pollinators. I'll have to explore the signage behind the nature center in the spring and the summer because I just don't know much about the pollinator garden. Why mention it then, you might be asking? It's because it's on the Wood County Park District website and TripAdvisor, so it's worth mentioning. Moving on, item number 7 is a sensory garden. There was an article about the sensory garden online. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It says that the sensory garden was new in 2021, and guests are invited to feel, smell, and taste different plants and herbs for a full sensory experience. The sensory garden is located behind the Nature Center. I'll have to check that feature out in the summer too. I'm not too familiar with it. Again, there will be a link to that article that I mentioned about the sensory garden in the show notes for episode 25 on perrysburgpodcast.com. Item number 8 is a bee nursery. In 2020, a Perrysburg area Eagle Scout named Ian Russell built a bee nursery to attract solitary bees to live in this area. This is not a bee hive. This is a bee nursery. These are like bachelor bees who have no queen. It is called a bee nursery. Item number 9 is bat boxes. Bats are nocturnal animals. We don't usually see them during the day, and they eat annoying insects. We want them at the parks. Then we'll have fewer mosquitoes, moths, and beetles. The park gives them a place to live in the form of bat boxes. See if you can spot them when you visit WW Knight Nature Preserve. Item number 10 is a brick memorial walkway. There are bricks with names on them at WW Knight Nature Preserve. At one time, you could purchase a brick, have a name engraved upon it, or a phrase, and then the brick would be included in part of this walkway. It's a sidewalk. It's really close to the parking lot. I'm not sure if you can still buy a brick, but we have one for our dog, Bond. Our dog Bond passed away in 2017, but his brick remains. Every time we go to the park, we look for it. The brick says Bond, New Love, and it has some paw prints on it. See if you can find it. It's located near the information stand, which is right next to the parking lot. Item number 11 is kayaking in the summertime. I believe they call this paddle at the pond. My son Craig, who's now 20, and I did this once and we had a good experience. We now have our own kayak and we launch it in various places around Northwest Ohio, but this was a good experience for us to find out if we liked having a kayak. The park provides the kayaks, the life vests, and staff who instruct you on water safety and paddling. You just show up and try it out. It's really easy. Check out the website or the information stand at the park for more information. And finally, last one, the 12th and final item is the hiking trails. There are 4 trails at WW Knight Nature Preserve. If you ride your bike to the park, park it at the bike rack. Bikes are not allowed on the trails. The longest trail is about half a mile in length. Interesting fact, by the way, one of the trails connects to Hospice of Northwest Ohio, which is its neighbor right next door. Even though the trails are short, our favorite has a boardwalk. It's a really beautiful feature. We love walking on it. I believe that the trail that we like best is marked Wet Woods Trail on the map, the Wet Woods Trail. If you visit WW Knight and you only have time for one trail, this is the one to pick, the Wet Woods Trail. That does it for my list of 12 features of WW Knight. Now on to Wild Lights, which is coming up January 19th through 21st, 2024. This event is available to the public at no cost. In fact, it's kind of a cash prize competition. I don't know if you knew that. I just found that out too. It's a cash prize competition among groups who decorate various life-sized 3D foam animals with lights, decorations, costumes, and more. According to the park's website, third place gets $50, second place gets $100, and first place gets $150. Registration for this contest ended on January 10th, so if you're interested in trying the Wild Lights Decorating Contest next year, mark your calendar for December and start looking for the information early. For visitors who are not competing, all you do is show up on January 19th, 20th, or 21st between 5 and 8 p.m. Park your car, head towards the lights. It's just that easy. It'll take you about 20 minutes to walk through everything. And by the way, the location of the lights is near the nature playscape. So park your car, head towards the nature playscape, check out all those lights. Then, if you want to, you can head into the Nature Center for some hot cocoa. The website says that there are activities courtesy of the Friends of the Park as well. I'm not sure what they have planned, but if you're looking for something to do in Perrysburg the weekend of January 19th through 21st from 5 to 8 p.m., stop by WW Night Nature Preserve. That's at 29530 White Road in Perrysburg. This event is available at no cost as far as I know. I've been to it in the past and never paid anything. That does it for episode 25 of the Perrysburg Podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing about WW Night Nature Preserve, one of Perrysburg's great parks. I'll have links to WW Night Nature Preserve and the YouTube channel for this podcast in the show notes. You can find that all at perrysburgpodcast.com. If you know someone who might like to learn about WW Night Nature Preserve or go to Wild Lights, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode when it comes out. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next Friday.